All right, so today we're going to deep dive into some pretty interesting waters.
Yeah.
We're going to be tackling a single source and audio clip. And, well, the title is a little bit attention-grabbing. Let's just say that exclusive Obama stole 200+ billion in secret bail in .mp3.
It definitely sets a dramatic tone.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's like the opening line of a political thriller, you know?
Yeah.
But before we get, swept up in all the intrigue, let's just break down what this deep dive is all about. We're going to be examining some claims of financial misconduct by the Obama administration, all based on this one audio clip, and it features analysis by Dr. Jerome Corsi.
So it's important to remember that we are just dealing with one perspective here,
Yeah.
and one that's coming from a very strong opinion, it seems.
Absolutely, but that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Yeah.
So what exactly is this audio clip claiming?
Well, at its core, the audio clip accuses President Obama of illegally diverting almost $200 billion from investors in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Okay.
You know those government-backed mortgage giants to fund Obamacare?
Right, and they don't hold back on the language, do they?
Yeah.
It's all, biggest theft is U.S. history, rob the investors, secret bail-in. It's
designed to get a reaction out of you, for sure.
Yeah.
And they claim that this analysis is all based on official Treasury Department reports and accounting documents.
Okay, so like hard evidence backing this up.
Yeah, they say so.
Okay, but what would make someone even think to look for this kind of thing?
Well, that's what's interesting. They actually mentioned that their investigation was prompted by an article in the Washington Examiner that raised doubts about the financial dealings, surrounding Fannie and Freddie.
Interesting.
So there was already this kind of pre-existing skepticism about the government's actions.
Gotcha. So they dug into the numbers, and they're claiming they found a smoking gun.
Right.
They even say they have a former Freddie Mac auditor backing them up.
They do?
Wow. Okay, so let's just say for argument's sake that their analysis is accurate.
Okay.
What would Obama's motive be for doing this?
Well, the source lays out a few possible motives. First, they suggest that Obama wanted to redistribute wealth by shifting money from investors to low-income earners, who would benefit from Obamacare.
But it's all part of some grand socialist scheme.
Right.
That's a pretty loaded accusation.
It is, and they also suggest that it was part of a larger strategy to undermine middle-class homeownership and move America towards a European-style society where more people rent than own.
So they're painting a picture of Obama trying to fundamentally change American society.
Right.
Through these financial maneuvers.
Yeah, and their final point is that this alleged diversion of funds was a desperate attempt to cover up the fact that Obamacare was on the verge of financial collapse.
Wow, so according to this source, it was a three-pronged attack. Redistribute wealth, attack homeownership, and prop up a failing healthcare system, all through this secret financial scheme.
That's the narrative that they're presenting, but it's important to remember that this all hinges on their analysis of those financial documents being accurate.
Right. And that's where things get even more interesting, because this audio clip isn't just, a dry accounting lesson.
No.
It's packed with opinions and some pretty inflammatory language.
Yeah, you could say that.
The speaker, and remember, this isn't Dr. Corsi speaking. This is someone else presenting. His analysis really goes on the offensive.
Right.
He accuses the media of being complicit in covering up this alleged scandal. Claims there's a coordinated effort to silence anyone who speaks out against Obama, and even drags celebrities like Snoop Dogg into it.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a whole bit about Snoop Dogg and gangster rap being part of some conspiracy.
Yeah.
It definitely takes a turn.
It takes a turn in some unexpected territory, for sure.
For sure. He frames it all as a total war against a powerful and shadowy deep state that's panicking now that their supposed crimes are being exposed.
Right.
So it feels like this audio clip is trying to do more than just expose a financial scandal.
Yeah.
They're trying to paint a much broader picture of, corruption and conspiracy at the highest levels of government.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. And he even claims to have sources inside the White House feeding him information.
Interesting. Before we get lost in this web of accusations and conspiracy theories, let's take a step back and try to understand the context. We need to understand what was going on with Fannie and Freddie during the 2008 financial crisis and why the government got involved in the first place.
Okay.
Then we can start to unpack Dr. Corsi's analysis and see if it holds up under scrutiny.
Right.
Are you ready to dive deeper?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
I'm ready. So to really get the source's claims, we got to rewind all the way back to 2008.
Oh,
the peak of the financial crisis. Remember those headlines about banks failing,
oh
the
yeah.
housing market crashing?
Hmm.
Well, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were right in the thick of it.
Okay, I vaguely remember hearing about them, but what exactly did they even do? Were they like some kind of bank?
Not exactly think of them as like the middlemen of the mortgage world.
Okay.
They were created by the government to make homeownership more accessible. They would buy up mortgages from banks, bundle them together, and then sell them off to investors.
Okay.
This freed up the banks to lend more money for more mortgages.
Right.
It all worked great until it didn't.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like that bundling thing could get really messy if those mortgages weren't so solid.
Yeah, exactly. When the housing bubble burst and people started defaulting on their loans,
Uh,
those bundles of mortgages suddenly became worth a whole lot less.
ouch.
It's like finding out your retirement fund was invested in Beanie Babies after the craze ended.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. So Fannie and Freddie were in deep.
Big trouble.
Yeah.
They were on the hook for trillions of dollars in bad mortgages.
Oh, wow.
And a collapse would have sent shockwaves through the entire financial system.
Right.
That's when the government stepped in with a massive bailout and put them under conservatorship.
Conservatorship sounds serious. Is that like when a parent takes away their teenager's car keys?
Kind of similar, yeah,
Right.
but with much higher stakes.
Right.
Basically, the government became the majority shareholder.
Yeah.
And got to call the shots.
Okay.
They were trying to stabilize the companies and prevent a total meltdown of the housing market.
Okay, so that's where this audio clip comes in. They're saying Obama took advantage of this whole situation.
Right. They claim that he didn't just rescue Fannie and Freddie, he used them as a personal piggy bank to fund his own agenda.
And that agenda was
Specifically Obamacare.
Obamacare, okay. And they say that they can prove it. They followed the money trail.
That's their claim. Yeah, they say Dr. Corsi, working with this unnamed former Freddie Mac auditor, was able to track how these funds were supposedly siphoned away from Fannie and Freddie.
Okay.
They even put together a fancy spreadsheet to illustrate the flow of money.
So let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Right.
Let's say their spreadsheet is accurate.
Okay.
Is it possible that the government was, legally entitled to use some of those funds?
Right.
I mean, they were the majority shareholder at that point.
Yeah. That's the crux of the argument, right? The government's position was that they had to take drastic action to protect the economy and that their actions were totally legal under the terms of the conservatorship.
Uh-huh. But this audio clip is saying that they went too far.
Exactly. They argue that the money should have gone back to the investors who were essentially robbed.
Okay.
They see it as a violation of corporate law and shareholder rights.
So they're not just saying it was a bailout. They're saying it was a deliberate scheme to prop up Obamacare with stolen funds.
That's the narrative they're pushing.
Oh.
They even go as far as to say that this proves that Obamacare was basically bankrupt from the start. And the Obama administration was desperate to keep it afloat, even if it meant resorting to shady tactics.
It paints a very different picture of what happened back then, if they're right. This could be huge. But how much weight can we really give to these claims? I mean, they seem pretty convinced, but is there any other evidence out there to support their story?
That's where we need to start digging deeper and looking for corroborating evidence. Do other financial experts agree with Dr. Corsi's analysis? Has anyone else even investigated these claims?
Right, and is this just one isolated incident? Or does it fit into a larger pattern of behavior? We need to look beyond just this single source and see what else is out there.
And it is worth noting that Dr. Corsi has been a controversial figure in the past.
Really?
He's been known to promote some, let's say, unconventional viewpoints.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that.
Well, he's written books about a variety of conspiracy theories, and he's been a vocal critic of...
Hold on a second. That's fascinating, but let's save that for later.
Okay.
First, I want to hear more about what this audio clip has to say about this so-called deep state. Okay, so we've got this audio clip alleging this massive conspiracy orchestrated by Obama to funnel money from Fannie and Freddie to Obamacare.
Right.
They're calling it a secret bailout theft, even a socialist scheme. But the speaker also keeps mentioning this deep state that's supposedly pulling the strings behind the scenes. What's that all about?
Well, it's a term you hear a lot these days, often in connection with conspiracy theories. It generally refers to this shadowy network of unelected officials and bureaucrats who are believed to, hold the real power, manipulating events and undermining democracy for their own agendas.
So like a secret cabal controlling things from the shadows, kind of like a real-life Illuminati.
Some people believe that, yeah, in this particular case, the speaker claims that the deep state is panicking because he's exposing their crimes and they're trying to silence him.
He even says he has sources inside the White House feeding him information. Is he suggesting that these sources are part of the deep state, or are they trying to fight against it from within?
That's not entirely clear. He seems to present himself as this lone warrior,
Yeah.
fighting against a corrupt system, but also suggests he has allies in high places, so it's a bit of a mixed message.
It definitely adds to the drama and intrigue, but it also makes it hard to know who to trust and what to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, if there really is a deep state controlling everything, how would we even know? And how could one person, even with some inside, help possibly take them down?
That's a good question, and it highlights the difficulty of, dealing with claims about the deep state. It's a concept that's very hard to prove or disprove because it relies on the idea of a hidden coordinated network operating in secrecy by its very nature. It's designed to be elusive and undetectable.
So how do we separate fact from fiction when it comes to something like this?
It's not easy, but I think it comes back to critical thinking and healthy skepticism. When you hear claims about shadowy conspiracies and powerful forces working behind the scenes, it's important to ask yourself, what evidence is there to support these claims? Who benefits from promoting this narrative? And are there alternative explanations that might be more plausible?
Right. And it's important to remember that just because something sounds, exciting or dramatic doesn't mean it's true. We need to be careful not to get swept away by the intrigue and always look for solid evidence.
Exactly. And I think that's a good takeaway from this entire deep dive. We started with this audio clip making some pretty wild accusations, and it's led us down this rabbit hole of financial intrigue, political conspiracy, and shadowy deep state theories.
It's been a wild ride, but even if we don't necessarily buy into everything this source is selling, it's definitely raised some interesting questions about the government's role in the economy, the power dynamics at play, and the importance of transparency and accountability.
I agree. And perhaps more importantly, it's reminded us that, critical thinking is more crucial than ever in a world where misinformation and disinformation are constantly competing for our attention.
Well said. So, what are some key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind as they continue to explore these issues?
I think the most important thing is to approach information with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially when it comes from sources with strong biases or vested interests. Look for corroborating evidence, consider alternative perspectives, and don't be afraid to ask tough questions.
Great advice. And remember, there's often more to the story than meets the eye. So keep digging, keep learning, and don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions.
That's the spirit of a true deep diver, and who knows, maybe we'll uncover some of those deep state secrets along the way.
Or maybe we'll find out it was all just a bunch of hot air. Either way. It's sure to be an interesting journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and as always, stay curious.